Okay, now I'll be visiting this source right here to get more or to properly edify. Okay, so we see entitled, it says, The Crucible of South Carolina. And here's the link here, People of One Fire. So here's what I want to highlight, okay, in order to gain an understanding of the correct pronunciation of certain tribal names. So to start, it says, much of the confusion can be traced to the assumption by anthropologists that Native Americans pronounced their ethnic names given them by Europeans exactly like contemporary alphabetic letters are pronounced in English. The English bo was actually closer to po. Okay, so when you're talking kusabo, you're actually saying kushapo. The English ba in Catawba was actually pa. Okay, Catawpa. Both are Itza Maya and Isate Creek suffixes for place of or territory. Okay, the real name of the Catawba Indians was Catawpa. Okay, and the only place you see the wording like this, and it's quite characteristic with words in their language, are the people who reside in West Africa today. Okay, really hardly nowhere else. Okay, when you're talking about the inhabitants of America, okay, we're talking about so-called black people. We're talking about so-called white people, so-called Native American, Asian, and again, so-called black people. Among those, you really only see words characteristic to words such as this among the people, again, residing in West Africa today. So the real name of the Catawba Indians was Catawpa on the Georgia maps. And I want to highlight Kata'a is a Hebrew word meaning sin. So if we place that together with Ba, we would the meaning would be basically in sin. We would get the word in sin, okay, or in transgression. Now, I'm one to say that I don't believe those people are characterized by that. How that could go both ways. That could go any way. These people could be so righteous as to name themselves that to as a way indicative of the times. Okay? People in sin, or place in sin, territory in sin, or territory of sin. Okay, so that's just a little edifying on that subject, so we're properly orientated. Okay, an an internal S was pronounced sh. So when again you're talking kusabo, kushapo, okay, by Eastern Muskogeans, while an external S was a j sound, like Santee would be properly pronounced Jandi. Jandi. Okay, sound like in southern Mexico. Many T's and anglicized tribal names were actually pronounced closer to the sound of a D. So when we're talking Wando or Oueanto, as we see here, we would think the T would pronounce as to. It's actually Oueando. Okay? So someone in the past, well, actually, let me not get ahead of myself. when you look at the wording of Wando, the people who are in Burkina Faso today, and you look at the terminology used by the Wando people in America, Wando, we have similar sounds, okay, and almost similar spelling. These people are one and the same people, okay? They are one and the same people. The evidence in this presentation that we went over, it shows that, and it proves that. Okay, Wando Ouando. Okay, lost people found. That's the sense that we should be getting. Those people of the Wando society were over here in the Americas. Okay, now it says someone of the past decided that the bo or bu suffix in South Carolina Indian names meant river. Okay, so to further elaborate, it says, however, they never could figure out what language bo or bu came from. Why? Because the people it came from, they were displaced and they disappeared. Is that not right? That's the terminology that was used. So that's why you couldn't find or figure out what language bo or bu came from, because the people had up and left, or they were either displaced into slavery. Okay, so when we look at the map here, because there's a tribe in Burkina Faso known as the Bobo. Okay, Bobo de Alasso, that is a place in Burkina Faso that comprised of the Bobo people. Okay, now, according to the article, Bo or Bu meant river or means river. Are these the Bo people of the river? Or the river people? Okay, that's quite interesting dynamic. Okay, so to read further on, someone else decided that the Westo or the Weshdos were really Yuchi, thus the full name of the late 17th century slave raiders, Weshdebu, Weshdepo, or Weshdobu, was translated as Yuchi River. Weshde or Weshdo is a Muskogean adjective for scraggly hair that was applied by the Creeks as a pejorative name for the Rico-Hockins who wore long, unkempt hair. Weshdepo means territory of the Rico-Hockins in Isate Creek. Okay, when you're saying Westebo, you really should be pronouncing it Weshdepo, 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 Weshdepo. Okay, so we just needed to get some orientation with the pronunciation of these indigenous words and people groups. Okay? So it is quite important to remember the interesting parallels circa 700 to 1250. The empire of Ghana and Mississippian Mound culture flourished simultaneously around that time. Okay, 700 to 1250. So when you're talking, when you're questioning as who the people are, you have to look at the parallels, the linguistic similarities. Okay, and part of the parallels here, as well as the culture, the practice of the culture. and how they named themselves. So part of the parallels here are that, or is that, the Empire of Ghana and Mississippian Mound culture flourished at 700 to 1250 CE simultaneously. Okay, Cahokia is established by Siouan tribes circa 900, flourishing from 1000 to 1250. Subsequently, due to the decline of Cahokia circa 1250, there was a great migration east into Georgia from the Mississippi Valley. Now, all at once, Georgia saw a large population increase around that time, that is 1250, at a site called Etowah Mounds. If the kind of excavated artifacts discovered places the Wando in South Carolina for at least 1200 years, then that means they've existed inside the time frame and quite possibly were a part of the Hopewell Mound culture. Okay, that is very important to highlight, very important to understand. Okay, another question posed is if it's characteristic for these peoples to leave their dwellings as a result of declining cultures. What do you think probably occurred when Europeans appeared? Okay, because again, it's characteristic of these Europeans to demand their way, and then end up displacing the indigenous inhabitants. Did similar pre-Columbian migrations occur with the Wando and surrounding inhabitants, meaning the Siwi, the Winiya, and the Winiya is quite similar to in name to the Burkina Faso people known as Winiyama. Okay, those people are most likely one and the same, and I'll be addressing that in future presentations. Okay, so did similar pre-Columbian migrations occur with the Wando, Siwi, Winiya, Congaree, Santee, Wateree, and other Indian tribes as a result of a decline in society in other places? We're talking pre-Columbian there. Now, post-Columbian, could the Wando and other tribes have migrated across the Atlantic to West Africa with the hope of better opportunity due to the rapidly declining way of life? Okay, like Cahokia, and their displacement as a result of overwhelming European presence, because we know the Europeans again displaced them.